and good work we've had with the Commissioner, and we thank him. Along with a competent leadership, rolled up their sleeves to rebuild and modernize SARS as an organization worthy of the legacy we want to leave our children and grandchildren. It was a call not just for sacrifice, but for hope and renewal, a chance to claim the promise of South Africa's future. For that, we owe Commissioner and his leadership our deepest gratitude. To all SARS employees, which you had the privilege of being addressed by the President of the Republic a couple of months ago, South Africa is immensely proud of all your efforts and always providing a more positive outlook to our country. Beyond the numbers, your commitment sends a powerful message of hope and progress, inspiring confidence in the future of South Africa. Thank you for being a vital part of our nation's journey towards growth and prosperity. To taxpayers, I express my sincere thank you for your compliance and contribution. But before, I know journalists who've been interested in asking me a question, so I want to tell them I'm not going to answer. And that question is there a new commissioner going to be appointed soon? My answer, yes, the new commissioner is going to be appointed soon. How soon? Anytime from tomorrow to next week, that can happen. But we'll have a commissioner from the 1st of May. How do I know? I know that the president has made the decision. Whoever is appointed, the only benefit I have is that I have on my desk a presidential note which tells me who's going to take the job from the 1st of May.
It's not me.
You have retired. I'm closer to you. I'm closer to you. So there's this notion, people panicking. Is there a that work is done, is being handled properly, is going to happen. What is left now is for the president to make an announcement. Thank you.
When we say that we administer the tax laws without fear, favor, and prejudice, it does include the finance minister as well. In fact, the two of us should be the first example. Let me again just observe and reflect my sincere appreciation to our special guests today, former President Thabo Mbeki, also founder of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, and founder of the Kgalema Motlanthe Foundation, our own Minister of Finance, Inako Rangwana, former Minister Naledi Pandor, and Chair of the Mandela Foundation. Wonderful to have you here. The heads of Chapter 9 institutions, the chairpersons of our Portfolio Committee, lovely to have you here, members of the Judiciary, the Director General of the Treasury, Dr. Peterson, my other partner in crime, DG Makode, who is here. We work well together. Other leaders of government, Ma'am Sophie de Bruyn. I struggled for a few years to get her here. She finally accepted our, but she says, President, that she had to cancel the ANC Integrity Committee this morning because they couldn't continue without her. So she'll go. To Mr. Sean Bolton, the Executive Director of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. This year, we invited the foundations. We always select a constituency, and this year we focus on the foundation. But also happens to be that we have these luminaries who are linked to these foundations, so it's wonderful. To the SARS Deputy Commissioners, the EXCO and leadership, SARS employees across the country, esteemed invited guests in the room and online, to my own family and loved ones who I know they are tuned in onto their devices. Last year in this room, I had my mother here. She sadly passed us a week after she was here. Ladies and gentlemen, All protocol observed. Good afternoon. Sanibonani. Dumelang. Ek kom van die Kaap, so molweni. At the outset, I want to thank the core team from my office, the revenue analysis, the technology enablement, and the enterprise data teams. They will tell you that it has been a pressure cooker, and we know the results by about midnight. Then by about 9 o'clock in the morning, it is confirmed. Then we have to start writing speeches and putting presentations together so that at 2 o'clock we can deliver this event to you. So thank you to them. You can have the weekend off. It's really a pleasure. And this has become a wonderful tradition that on the first working day after the year end, we are able to make a revenue announcement, a feat which many companies, I don't think, can match. We've always maintained that without SARS, our democracy would be unfunded. Because SARS is a story about people. The 63 million people whom we serve, and when people tell me only 5 million people or 500,000 pay tax, I say everyone pay taxes, because when you buy at the till, you pay taxes. So we have 62 million taxpayers, not those who claim for their own benefit that we only have a few 100,000. Everything is about people. It is the 34 million taxpayers whom we serve directly, and then our own 14,500 staff. And we remind ourselves every day that our work is transformative. And while wealthy people can buy themselves out of pandemics, can insure themselves against failure, whether it's a failure of government services, whether it's a failure that results from an accident, poor people only have government to look for. So it is those vulnerable whom we serve. Our mandate is clear. It is cast in law, and it is about collecting taxes, ensuring compliance, and about facilitating legitimate trade. But we chose something which is not cast in law, and we frame it as our higher purpose. It is the reason of our existence, and this, for us, is unequivocally that our work enables government to build a capable state that fosters sustainable economic growth and social development, ultimately serving the well-being of South Africans. And let me tell you, I'm a boy from the township, so when I become frustrated and moeg and feel I want to throw in the towel, these are the faces of the gogo, the young mother, the little boy and girl in the township who can go to school, that inspires us to continue. There's nothing as powerful as a compelling vision and strategic clarity to guide any institution. And so I show that with you. You can read it at your own leisure. That's our strategic playbook. It has been unyielding. It has been the doctrine against which we decided everything we do, every resource allocation, every performance metrics is about, and it's calibrated by our vision, our strategic intent, the 9 objectives, the clarity of purpose, our theory of compliance, and ultimately finding that right balance, we call it the Goldilocks point, between managing risk and providing service. And so this is really what has enabled us. When you have a flock flying in formation, there has to be a guiding, coalescing force. And this is the guiding, coalescing force that enables 14,500 people to act with a common sense of purpose. Our democracy, since 1994, it is noteworthy that we had 2.7 million taxpayers, and in the first year of our democracy, collected 114 billion rand. That, by the way, Minister, is what we collected yesterday and on Monday. And we served 34.8 million taxpayers against the 2.7 million that was registered. And in over 32 years, SARS has collected 25 trillion rand in tax revenues at a compounded rate of 9.7%, faster than economic growth. This demonstrates that a well-functioning tax and revenue authority is one of our proudest achievements of our democracy. We can hold our head proudly amongst our international peers. Ladies and gentlemen, since this is my final results announcement before I hand over the baton to my successor at the end of this month, today's announcement will cover three sections. Firstly, I will share with you the results of the 2025-26 financial year. I will then provide a high-level review of the 7 years of my term as SARS Commissioner. And thirdly, I will share with you some exciting news about the journey of SARS Modernization 3.0, which is already well underway. But before I do that, one of the groups we also wanted to call out today were some of our oldest taxpayers. Every year we show appreciation. So this year, to Dorothea Cruz, who is 102 years and fully compliant taxpayer. Thank you. To our longest serving taxpayers, more than 50 years. Some of you were in exile, so you didn't work that long, sir. Or in jail, yeah. But to Ndlal Rabilal, to Peter Francis Fife, to Chris Chetty, and to Vinayagam Naguran, these are some of the taxpayers who've been on our register for more than 50 years, and they will get from us a certificate of appreciation, because who are we without taxpayers? And so we must show appreciation, not take for granted the money we collect. Before I announce the results, which I'm sure is the only thing you came for, I would like to then just share something. The minister let the cat out of the bag a little bit. In recent February budget announcement, the Minister of Finance increased the revenue estimate to 2 trillion, over 2 trillion, to 2,006 trillion rand, which was 21.3 billion higher than the original estimate a year earlier. In the current economic environment, we knew this was always going to be a daunting challenge. I'm therefore extremely proud to share that at 3 o'clock yesterday, we watch the counters, we watch every taxpayer, every rand, every cent. We make a phone call when we think you're sitting on your lap, and we remind you that we must pay before midnight. So at 3 o'clock, I had the pleasure of refreshing our engine, and we crossed the threshold of 2 trillion. So we thought, how do we celebrate the special moment? And we said, we'll make a few little gifts. And then my chief of staff panicked, and she said, what if we don't make it? So I said, well, if we don't make it, we'll hand it over to the next commissioner, because they'll make it next year. At least it won't be fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So I can now share with you, Minister, that I'll drink my water out of this cup, which is SARS 2 trillion. And we will have a small made. We had to make it before 3 a.m., but we had to take a risk with cautious optimism. We also will provide each of you with a lanyard that commemorates the moment. And Minister, for you, I have a special cap. So we refresh every 10 minutes. The counter goes up, and at exactly 17:10, at 5:10 yesterday afternoon, we reached your estimate of 2,006.9. So of course we were very relieved, but we had to keep counting. And so, in fact, when the counting stopped at midnight last night, the provisional result exceeded the revised estimate that you gave us by 3.34 billion rand, yielding an outcome of 2010.3, 2010. So the revenue announcement for this year just exceeded 2.010 trillion. I think it's a special moment for us. This is no ordinary results announcement. This is a historic milestone of crossing 2 trillion threshold for the first time in our history. Indeed, a defining moment, and for me personally, a very special way to hand over the baton to my successor. I can now go in peace. This is 155 billion rand more than what we collected a year ago. When I explain to young people, when I do talks at schools, I ask them, do you know how big a billion is? And they don't know. I say, how long will it take you to count a billion, up to a billion? And they say, maybe 7 days, maybe a few hours, maybe a month. Well, it will take you over 30 years to count to a billion. And so we collected 155 billion rand more than last year, a remarkable year-on-year growth of 8.4% under these economic conditions, where nominal growth for now is projected to have grown at 4.8%. This implies, Minister, a tax-to-GDP ratio of 25.9% and a tax buoyancy of 1.73%. It took us 22 years to reach the first trillion, and then less than half the time, exactly 10 years, to double the revenue collections from 1 trillion to 2 trillion. In an era of slow economic growth, load shedding, and COVID-19. We believe that this is noteworthy and reflects the diligent work of our employees, the institutional integrity of SARS, and the tax administrator's centrality to the fiscal health of South Africa. SARS, as you pointed out, is truly a national asset that must never be taken for granted and must be treasured. I'd like to now share some high-level detail underlying this result. A more detailed presentation has already been shared with the media. So, gross revenue at 2.468 billion, or 2.468 trillion, refunds of 458 billion, yielding a result of 2.01 trillion. We look at the tax revenue by tax product, and I can share with you that individual taxes is still the largest contributor at 794 billion. VAT, which is what we all pay at the till, is 500 billion, the second largest contributor. Company taxes, 350 billion. Customs and excise, customs at 352, and excise at 182 billion. So you get a sense of where the taxes yield from. I want to point out that refund payments that we pointed out of 458 billion, especially during tough economic times for small businesses and families in financial stress, are an important lifesaver and a necessary injection of cash into the economy. The fact that the 458 refunds we process, many of you may not know, represents 5.9% of GDP. It's not insignificant. And so I'm therefore pleased that our growth in refunds has consistently grown higher than gross or net revenue. And this even after we've consistently increased refund risk management to deal with impermissible and fraudulent risk refund claims. Also noteworthy is a segment view where we've seen a positive increase of compliance in the SMME sector. That's really pleasing. We've worked hard to assist small businesses, to help them understand their obligations, to help them fulfill those obligations, and when they fall into financial distress, to use the instruments at our hand to help them pay off these debts. And so it was pleasing that we have seen a significant increase in the compliance of the SMME. Government is at almost 80% compliance, and large and international businesses at 88.6%. And our focus on broadening the tax base has also seen registration compliance now approaching 90%. That therefore gives you the revenue by segment. As you see on the screen, 573 from large corporates, 570 billion from the SMMEs, 31 from high wealth individuals, and from government, 259 billion. If we look at revenue by sector, you can see that the financial services sector is still the biggest contributor. The second contributor is actually across all sectors, 569 billion that comes from customs and excise, therefore largely import taxes and consumption taxes, except for domestic VAT. Government is included in the community and social services at about 2.25 trillion, and then you can see down the line. I thought it would be important to just point out that mining, because mining is often credited with the superior revenue growth, has actually, even though it has grown by 112%, the contribution went from about 12.5 to 25 billion, which is net of 81 billion of refunds, suggesting hopefully some investment into capital, because capital investments is then offset for VAT. And so we actually see that the significant portion of growth is from the financial sector as well as from the compliance effort of SARS. So let me turn, therefore, to our compliance revenue. Just for sharing this, compliance revenue is the revenue that we link to a discrete administrative action that we take, whether it is collecting an outstanding debt, whether it is following up returns, conducting an investigation or an audit and raising an additional assessment and collecting the money. This is the work that we do. And this year, that contribution is 316 billion, or just over 15% of the total revenue that we collected. The impressive contribution from revenue collection, from revenue leakage prevention of 103 billion, is directly linked to the deployment of our risk engine, our AI models that we build, that allows us to detect a return and to highlight it for potential risk, and almost always for an impermissible or fraudulent refund. So 103 billion just from the deployment of data science and sophisticated tax processing and fraud risk detection. I have to point out, though, that it is the same technology that allows us to give a world-class service. And for example, we have been able to disintermediate the need for almost 6 million taxpayers to submit a return, because we do the return on their behalf using these models and third-party data sources. We are able to provide them with an assessment outcome without them having to do anything. And for those who do choose to submit a return, they receive their assessment outcome in under 5 seconds. That is world-class. And in that under 5 seconds, it does all of these risk detection to prevent the just more than 1 million returns for further risk review. And we do all of this and are still able to pay out most refunds with relatively low risk in under 72 hours. We have a long way to go, but I think we are pleased that we are able to impact so positively the taxpayers whom we serve. Our debt and revenue recovery program had high public interest around Budget 3.0, and the minister heeded our plea, gave us a bit of extra money, and I'm happy to report that that has yielded a result of 111 billion rand. Then 20 billion was recovered from our focus on the criminal and illicit economy. We raise an assessment of more than that, but I can tell you, when we find a criminal or a syndicate, they don't welcome us with open arms. They don't say, "I'm so happy you found us." They fight us, they take us to court, they complain to us, to the public protector. They do all kinds of things to escape their liability. And so it takes years to recover this money, but we are pleased to say that last year we recovered 20 billion from this effort. Our tax and audit investigations yielded 42 billion rand, and payment improvement a further 16 billion, and our customs and excise audit further 17 billion. And noteworthy is that our voluntary disclosure program also contributed 7 billion. And that is also a measure of trust in the revenue administration. I'm pleased that through our focus compliance program efforts over the past 7 years, we've seen a pleasing improvement in voluntary compliance, as the next slide shows, which now stands at over 70%, with particularly pleasing payment compliance of over 75%. And what that is, it's the compounding effect of our compliance efforts. So when taxpayers who are non-compliant in a particular year, we engage with them, their behavior change, and you get what we call an ongoing compliant dividend from a taxpayer who has become compliant. Trade, which is another metric that we manage, we have seen exports rather flat at just over 2 trillion and imports at 1.85 trillion, yielding a trade surplus balance of 240 billion. We introduced a trade facilitation index that measures the efficiency with which we can facilitate goods through our ports. When we introduced it 4 years ago, it was at 52%. Pleasing that it now stands at almost 75%. China, United States, and Germany are still our largest countries' export destinations, and our import destinations, China, India, and Germany. The United States have dropped a little bit there, but you can see that Germany, India, China, are still very key trading partners of South Africa. Now, this is the results presentation. What it presents as the team moves to the next section is that these highlights, which has affirmed our view, Minister, that an investment in SARS is an investment into the fiscal integrity of South Africa. Whilst revenue recovery this year was tough due to more complex composition of debt and taxpayers being in significant financial distress, the 316 billion rand from this compliance program, the combined effort of the endowment effect of improved payment compliance and the broadening of our tax base will give you the confidence to limit future burden of higher taxes on taxpayers. And this is our commitment to do this and to help manage the load in a significantly more equitable way. I now turn to the second section, which is reflecting on the past 7 years. I'm going to go give you an overview, then give you the highlights of each year. We framed the story as a story of renewal, rebuilding integrity, capability, and importantly, public trust, which was at 48% in 2019 and now stands at over 75%. Stepping into this role on the 1st of May 2019, I knew that a daunting task lay ahead. Yet the Tumamina call to serve demanded nothing less than commitment to public service excellence, unquestionable integrity, and irreproachability in how we worked. I knew that the thousands of men and women at SARS who had survived the trauma of state capture would respond positively to a renewed call to higher purpose, a compelling vision, and moral and strategic clarity. The story of SARS from 1920 to 2024-25 in this current year is not a series of disconnected annual results that we announced. It is a deliberate institutional journey, one that begins with model repair, advances through resilience and capability building, and culminates in a fundamentally redesigned operating model fit for the age of data and artificial intelligence. This journey is about restoring institutional integrity and translating it into sustained performance. Across the 7 years, we have placed people at the center of everything. We acted to reconnect, build trust, and engage. We launched a pastoral and listening campaign. We created meaningful work for those employees and professionals who were marginalized. We welcomed back good people back into the fold, those who had left. Together with the top 70 leaders, we developed a leadership model, an employee rights charter, and a career development model. Our leadership investment included the explicit focus on women in leadership and the establishment of a junior board to prepare the next generation leaders. We built a bridge between ourselves and organized labor to ensure and invite them as true partners. The complimentary public statement this week from the Public Service Association was heartwarming. We took the decision to insource our contracting cleaning staff and invest in their development. About 70 of them now are customs officers, 29 service consultants, 68 artisans, and 312 of them finishing their school leaving certificate. And a few years ago, they were cleaning staff. And so this is the power, the transformative impact we can have on the lives of people. We created an independent expert panel to advise on redress and reparation, to make right by those who had suffered, who were materially hurt or compromised during the unfortunate preceding period. Reparation included financial awards, private and public apologies, and where appropriate, re-employment. 2019-20 was therefore a foundation year, a year of rebuilding the model contract. This year marked the starting point of institutional renewal, defined not by expansion or acceleration, but by providing model clarity. SARS confronted a fundamental truth. Revenue legitimacy cannot exist without integrity, and no amount of modernization can compensate for the absence of ethical foundations. This emphasis was unmistakable, strengthening integrity, reinforcing sound ethics, and calling out maladministration as a societal red flag rather than a technical failure. Integrity was framed not only as internal control issue, but as a national concern directly linked to compliance, fiscal sustainability, and the credibility of the state. Crucially, we articulated taxation as a social contract. Compliance was positioned as a shared civic responsibility that protects critical public services and sustains domestic fiscal sovereignty. Paying tax to those who often call for a tax revolt or a tax boycott, I have this to say. Paying tax is an important means for those of us who are privileged to pay the privilege forward and to serve the terrible plight of the most vulnerable among us. Paying tax is therefore a privilege and central to our democracy. This established the baseline logic for the years that followed. Without trust, there can be no voluntary compliance. Without voluntary compliance, no legitimate revenue system can endure. This included implementing recommendations of the Nugent Commission. I see the judge and Carol Steinberg is there. They gave me a lot of work when I started. Amongst others, the Large Business Center was reestablished, the litigation unit and the integrity assurance capabilities were re-established. This first year did not promise quick wins, but it did lay the ethical foundation upon which every subsequent reform would depend. No sooner had we started, 2020-21, which was the year of inflection, prepared ourselves for resilience and digital acceleration, not because we were ready, but we had to respond to a little invisible thing, a little virus called COVID. We had to go into hard lockdown. We had to do our year end that year remotely. So the onset of COVID turned 2021 into a stress test. What might have been a transitional year became a moment of proof. Could SARS continue to function? Could we continue to serve taxpayers and traders? Could we enforce compliance? Could we protect revenue under unprecedented disruption and lockdown? Unquestionably, we proved that we could. What we did, we used COVID, the crisis, to step up institutional rebuilding rather than to retard it, to implement appropriate hybrid operating model and accelerate digital transformation instead of putting it on hold. We stepped up our work towards a smart modern SARS, demonstrating that modernization was an operational necessity, not a discretionary luxury. Digital channels were rapidly scaled, services were migrated online, and a secure remote working enabled institutional continuity when the world went into lockdown. At the same time, we leaned into data-enabled compliance, automating taxpayer services, risk detection, and targeted interventions, and delivered measurable compliance yields, reinforcing that digital capability could strengthen rather than dilute our compliance efforts. In this arc of renewal, year two proved that modernization is not about comfort or convenience, but about survivability, organizational resilience, and delivery under pressure. The following year, 2021-22, was a recovery and breakthrough year. We had by then built our data-driven compliance at scale and where trust became measurable. We moved beyond digital enablement into precision compliance management. Automating merely a proof of concept, it had become reliable enough for us to deploy it and to use it to serve the backbone of compliance operations. Automated risk engines achieved accuracy levels exceeding 98%, supported by quality assurance and feedback loops that refined risk detection rules and reduced false positives. Integrity was no longer, it was embedded in operational controls that prevented leakage and protected the fiscus in tangible ways, and I'll come back to that in a moment. The year also confronted the institutional damage caused by state capture. SARS explicitly acknowledged the erosion of taxpayer trust and tax morality and positioned the implementation of the Nugent Commission recommendations as central to restoring stability and voluntary compliance. Governance, reform, and enforcement capability were inseparable. In this broader arc, this was the year where we began to close the execution gap in concrete terms. Automation, governance, and learning systems were institutionalized and coalesced into sustainable capability. Institutionalization meant we were no longer dependent on individual heroics or isolated projects, but on the systemic rebirth of a modern SARS. And this was intentional. In 2022-23, we had a year of stabilization. The prospect of Vision 2024 came into view as something within our grasp. The year marked a visible turning point. SARS no longer described reform as something underway, but as an investment with the capability of bearing fruit. Progress towards this vision, which was a smart modern SARS with unquestionable integrity, an institution that could be admired and trusted, asserted confidence that even amid a difficult macroeconomic environment, institutional rebuilding was reflected in improved internal stability, strengthened capability, and the restoration, importantly, of public confidence. We reaffirmed the breadth of our mandate, revenue collection alongside trade facilitation, and the protection of the domestic economy's integrity, Performance outcomes were described in very positive terms despite external constraints, reinforcing the link between institutional strength and sustainable delivery resilience. In this phase, the year presented stabilization. Reform had crossed a threshold from promise to proof. In the 2023-24 year was a year of maturity in domestic resource mobilization and governance. The narrative in this year expanded beyond SARS as an organization, but as a pillar of our democracy. Domestic resource mobilization was elevated as an engine of sovereignty and the practical expression of the social contract between state and citizen, which is why the Minister said earlier on, South Africa does not have to go cap in hand to the institution to borrow money, because we have a revenue authority that provides about 90% of the resources we need. Our framing, therefore, 30 years of democracy enabled through domestic resource mobilization positions SARS not merely as a revenue collector, but as an enabler of democratic capability. And without this ability, our democracy would be unfunded. This was paired with a clear signal of ongoing commitment to governance, excellence, and stakeholder expectations. Internally, our execution discipline began to mature. Strategy was no longer expressed only through plans, but through management systems, including the discipline of objectives and key results. We call it our OKR system. And reform shifted from a list of initiatives to institutional habit. And our strategic intent became entrenched in the language of every employee and converted into the delivery of results. This became the essential mechanism for narrowing the execution gap at enterprise scale. We then moved to 24-25, a year where we substantively put leadership succession in place, preparing for transition, and ushered in an era of an AI-based operating model. We knew that this was not only a technology upgrade, but an organizational transformation that would disrupt our work and test our model resolve and integrity like never before. We explicitly and intentionally stepped into the age of AI and the redesign of our operating model itself. We could not just add on AI, we had to reconceptualize our operating model. With targeted additional resourcing, we positioned data science, machine learning, advanced analytics, and skilled personnel as an integrated compliance management capability. Modernization was described as collaborative and systemic, spanning national and regional partners. Our ambition as towards a unique digital identity, to capture once, to improve data integrity, and a unified payment system is part of what a smart future modern SARS will have as elements of an end-to-end ecosystem, replacing the fragmented legacy systems, ultimately, and that for them, tax would just happen. This means deploying AI at scale, but this requires judgment and discretion, and we have to learn fast and adapt at speed. In this arc of renewal represents not technology innovation, but reinvention with integrity, an institution capable of harnessing AI responsibly because governance, people capability, and trust are already embedded. And then the final year, this current year, we will be remembered for Budget 3.0, but also for consolidating gains and for the foundation of the future. The resolve of our fledgling GNU was severely tested, and our democratic resilience proved itself beyond doubt. SARS emerges from this as a central actor to our South Africa's well-being. It stands tall as the nation's premier resource mobilizer. It has proven in an uncontestable way, and done so at scale, that tax policy and tax administration are indivisible twins of sustainable fiscal integrity. Get either of it wrong, and you will delay fiscal integrity. This year's revenue performance averted a 2% VAT increase, and continued investment in SARS, Minister, can defer this for the foreseeable future as well. The year not only consolidates 7 years of institutional reform, but it positions SARS as an organization ready for its next exciting phase. The foundation for Modernization 3.0 is firmly laid, and the 14,500 people remain engaged and committed. I want to share with you just the overview of the 7 years. Net revenue at a compound annual growth rate at 6.78%, compliance revenue 13.8% growth on a CAGR basis, voluntary compliance up to over 70%, and trade facilitation approaching 75%. But what's really demonstrating institutional integrity are the measures below. Taxpayer service went from 54% in this period to 90%. Attitude towards compliance went from 66% to 76%. Public trust from 48% to 75%. And our own employees from 61% to 71% engagement. And these are the measures that gives us confidence. We call them lead measures as opposed to lag measures of institutional integrity that augurs well for the next phase of our development. We thought we would also share with you what is the return on investment for the investment in SARS for taxpayers. Well, for taxpayers, 70% of them now do not have to file a return. 97% of them file online. 90% of them assessed in under 5 seconds, and 457 billion paid in almost under 72 hours. Taxpayer service up to 90%, and trust at 75%. This is the return on investment in SARS that taxpayers experience. What does government enjoy from this investment? Well, here it is. Additional revenue of 1.6 trillion rand through the compliance program of SARS. AI detection models preventing over 672 billion in impermissible outflows. We retained that, and it ended up in the coffers of government. Serious tax and customs crime, many of them from the Zondo Commission, 1,200 investigations yielded more than 80 billion of results. 4 illicit financial flows schemes were collapsed. Court judgment, 83 out of every 100. Criminal prosecutions, 98 out of every 100. 83 illicit tobacco cases handed over to the NPA, and I see Advocate Matibi is there. I'm going to harass him soon to deal with these cases. 219 state capture audits resulting in 6 billion revenue, and 10 Zondo Commission matters fully implemented, 2 remain in progress. This is the return to government for the investment in SARS, and I thought it's important that we demonstrate that in measurable ways. And now, thank you. I now turn to the final section to give you a taste of the current phase of our transformation journey and beyond. We call this Modernization 3.0. And because I have spoken for a while, I'm going to prepare for you firstly a few introductory thoughts and then immerse you in a future experience. We maintain that with conviction that modernization and particularly digital transformation, many companies embark on this, and McKinsey says that more than 72% of digital transformations fail, and more than $2.1 trillion of digital transformation do not yield results because it's a Me Too reaction. And so it's important that when we embark on digital transformation, you do so with a clear purpose and a strategic intent with unambiguous clarity. This is important, and this is what guided us. So when we talk about a modernized SARS, we also have to acknowledge that we are now moving into the age of artificial intelligence. And in fact, not just artificial intelligence, we have generative AI or agentic AI, and very soon, artificial general intelligence. What does this mean for our work, What does it mean for our workforce? And this is not an add-on, but in fact, we have to learn to coexist with this technology. Your future worker, co-worker, will not be a human being. It will be an AI agent. And we've taken our staff along, we've taken our unions along so that they need not be scared because we are investing in them. We have deployed agentic licenses to all of them to play around with it, to become familiar with it, and we build the guardrails for the ethical deployment thereof. And so digitalization must always serve the interest and the well-being of people. This is even more important in the age of generative and agentic AI, when our employees must adapt to a future where their co-workers will be an AI agent. And so, Minister, to your earlier question, this is not a technology exercise. This is a leadership exercise. The technology agents build what leadership dreams about. So, and I say that with immense pride in the team that works with us. So we envisage a smart digital platform that is embedded in data science, in AI, and enabling technologies that will yield 6 very measurable outcomes. If we succeed, we will have improved voluntary compliance. We will have enhanced taxpayer experience. We have enhanced our own employee experience. We would have streamlined processes, improved overall operational efficiency, and maximized long-term sustainability. This will be the yield on the next phase of investment. And we imagine a smart modern SARS in the way that I will now allow you to be immersed and give myself a break. You would rather listen to the video than to me anyway. When we have delivered these 8 modules, what would it feel like? Well, taxpayers and their nominated representatives in the future will be allocated a unique digital identity through which they will have access after being identified primarily through biometric and 2-factor authentication to strengthen transaction integrity and enable data capture only once. And once verified, they will have access to a comprehensive view of their tax account, to the registered products, not only to view it, to update it, to confirm, but also to ensure that they can attend to the compliance status, conduct queries on their accounts, and fulfill any compliance and payment obligation in a more self-reliant and efficient manner. Similarly, to enhance taxpayer service, our employees, appropriately skilled and professional, will be empowered to view a comprehensive account of a taxpayer, putting all the various pieces or tax products together and create a comprehensive view. And through this, they will similarly be empowered to resolve any query by the taxpayer, progress or resolve any outstanding matter on behalf of the taxpayer. SARS will also leverage and partner with the South African Reserve Bank on the project to build a cost-effective instant payment system that is intended to increase financial inclusion, reduce cash in circulation, and strengthen the overall integrity of the national payment system. The intelligent case management system, which is central to the strategic intent of voluntary compliance, the automation of future routine tasks, and the use of big data and the deployment of agentic AI, overall the enhancement of productivity management and taxpayer service. While doing this shift from a declaration-based to a real-time risk profiling and case selection system that requires an entity-based compliance model to be embedded in the administration platform. This phase of modernization will also incorporate the addition of minor taxes, as well as a focus on the modernization of our VAT administration to connect SARS across the value chain to every point of sale, with the ambition to eventually auto-assess VAT. SARS will also work with the Border Management Authority and other agencies to focus on the modernization of customs and excise on a scope that includes both the physical as well as the technology infrastructure at our ports of entry. The world has changed. In the last 5 years, we have seen the emergence of a new suite of technologies, from the traditional AI, or artificial intelligence, increasingly now experiencing generative AI, which allows us to create AI agents. And of course, beyond that, to agentify a lot of the work, not just through the automation of process, but creating AI agents to work alongside of our staff.
As part of our SARS Modernization 3.0 vision, we're making it easier for taxpayers to get help from SARS, no matter how you choose to reach us. Thanks to AI and agentification, working with our service consultants, you can get answers quickly, securely, whether you use e-filing, the Mobi app, WhatsApp, or our voice channels. In 2024, SARS introduced Lwazi, the AI assistant, on our website, powered by a GPT-4 large language model and grounded in SARS knowledge base of published content, policies, and guides. Lwazi provides conversational answers to taxpayer, trader, and traveler queries. Taxpayer feedback has been incredibly positive, with more than 80% thumbs up satisfaction rate. Utilization continues to grow, with over 400% adoption in the past 12 months. We are now ready to take Lwazi to the next level, introducing agentification into other service channels. An AI agent answers the call, verifies who you are, and sorts your query. If needed, a human consultant steps in with all your details ready. This means you won't have to repeat yourself, and the experience is consistent, fast, and personal. I'd like to show you what we've been building.
Good day, and welcome to the SARS Service Center. I am your personal AI virtual assistant. In order to assist you today, please provide me with your ID number followed by the hash key.
I'm entering my ID number. However, in the future, we will be exploring biometrics into the SARS Mobi app for two-factor authentication.
Thank you. I have successfully authenticated you. How can I assist you today?
I received an SMS about money that I'm owing to SARS. Please, can you check that for me?
According to our records, your latest personal income tax balance is 100,000 rands owed to SARS. This is due for payment by the 28th of February, 2026.
Oh gosh, that's a lot of money. I wasn't expecting that amount. Is there anything that you can help me with? I can't afford that right now.
Please allow me to check. I am processing your request. Based on your current balance of 100,000 rands, I am able to offer you a 6-month payment arrangement with equal monthly installments of our 16,666.67 rands, with a first payment due by the 31st of March and your final payment by the 31st of August. Would you like to accept this payment arrangement?
Yes, please. I'd like to accept that.
I am processing your request. Thank you for accepting the payment arrangement. I have successfully processed this agreement and have emailed you confirmation hereof, including your case number. Is there anything else I can assist you with?
Thank you very much. How do I make payment to SARS?
There are currently 4 ways to make payments to SARS. You can pay at your bank, you can use e-filing, make an EFT payment, or make a payment via the SARS Mobi app. For ease of reference, I have also emailed you the details of the 4 payment options.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Is there anything else I can assist you with today? You can say yes or no.
No, that's all. Thank you.
Goodbye.
There's a live transcription of the call with sentiment analysis, and at any time, the AI agent or the taxpayer can bring a live service consultant into the call if needed. Of course, we'll get better and continuously improve, But this shows the progress we are making to use AI and agentification to improve the taxpayer experience.
More and more, we will automate routine tasks, but also every task that is currently being done by a human being, if not automated, will be augmented by working alongside artificial generative intelligence.
Each year, SARS processes more than 1 million tax verification cases. Many of these depend on our ability to manually analyze supporting data and documents. AI agents and machine learning models offer incredible potential, and we have already completed several proofs of concept to demonstrate the success of this technology. AI, working together with our auditors, can help take care of the routine and mundane work so our people can focus on valuable and more complex areas. Most recently, we implemented an AI agent able to complete tax verifications end-to-end for specific risks. This entailed an AI agent that successfully received documents submitted by the taxpayer, then accurately identified and classified the relevant support material needed to finalize the case. The AI agent then extracted relevant content and proceeded to validate this data against internal and external data sources. This AI agent could then recommend the relevant course of action to fully automate the outcome or bring the human verifier in the loop. We evaluated a full year's worth of these cases using the AI agent. What we found incredibly encouraging, in more than 87% of the cases, the AI agent complemented and agreed with the findings of the SARS verification and audit officials. And where there were differences, we found several opportunities to further refine and improve our initial successes. We are in the process of scaling these early successes. We are also building the agentification capability to tackle more complicated cases that require advanced reasoning and decision making. This is fully aligned to our goals to create an agile and engaged AI-empowered workforce, improve taxpayer compliance while simultaneously accelerating service levels to improve the taxpayer's experience.
And in the last, the modernization of our customs and excise administration, integrating that into the tax administration platform, and alongside that, accelerate the modernization of both our physical and technology infrastructure at the ports of entry, and in this regard, work with the other agencies who also help protect and facilitate goods and passengers across our ports of entry.
No one wants to see trade grinding to a halt due to congestion at border crossings. At SARS, we envisage a radically improved experience for traders, one that is fast, seamless, and secure. As Simon approaches the port in his truck, he comes to a controlled stop at the smart border post. The first automated step, a camera scans the number plate, instantly verifying the vehicle's identity. This check confirms all necessary permissions for the cargo and passengers, and flags any potential risks requiring intervention at the border. Next, a smart seal on the container is scanned. The system matches the seal to the truck, the declaration, and the manifest, confirming whether export permissions has been granted. The third check uses biometric authentication. A camera validates the driver's identity, ensuring their passport permissions are in order and authorizing them to cross the border. Finally, a non-intrusive scan of the entire vehicle is performed. This advanced screening looks for stowaways, contraband, or hidden compartments that could threaten national security. With all permissions granted and no new risks detected, Simon is clear to proceed. Simon watches as the automated signal changes from red to green. He also receives immediate confirmation on his mobile device. Back in Johannesburg, Thabo, the logistics manager, receives confirmation that the truck has crossed the border without delay, demonstrating real-time visibility across the supply chain. For Simon, the smart border is a source of pride, proof of a modern system that works. On the other side, the export declaration becomes the foundation for the import declaration into the neighboring country. Through the international single window and regional cooperation, many redundant processes are eliminated, creating a seamless cross-border journey. The smart seal stays on the container until Simon reaches his destination, preventing tampering, potential round-tripping, and ensuring security throughout the journey. After days on the road, Simon arrives at the hospital in Mozambique to deliver vital cargo. a safe, smooth, and uninterrupted trip. This efficient process stands in stark contrast to the frustrating delays of the past, driving regional economic growth and cooperation.
That's what we mean when we talk about a smart modern SARS. Ultimately, to make tax just happen. We thought we would immerse you into what we already have begun to implement and have advanced quite significantly the proof of concept to scale this up radically. Let me then conclude. I hope you've enjoyed that. Let me conclude by once again expressing to millions of taxpayers in South Africa, thank you for your contribution to the 2.01 trillion rand and for the trust you've placed in us and in me in particular. This closes a chapter of substantial institutional restoration and an organization positioned for the next phase of modernization at scale. In 2019, we set out to serve, not to build a legacy. And yet a legacy has been earned, is embedded, and is enduring. It will not end with my leaving, because the true legacy of SARS is its incredible people to whom this nation owes a debt of gratitude. I'm humbled that we bequeath an institution more valuable than what we inherited. Thank you for the privilege to serve you. Thank you. There will be some opportunity for questions.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for that inspired, impressive, and a profound address. I hope today South Africa will sleep soundly, knowing fully well that its social needs, the needs of its budget had been attended to. Colleagues from the journalistic world, as we had requested, as we discussed earlier, one question. The journalist will tell us, will give us the name, and only one question from in the media house. Just 5 questions, colleagues. We have only 10 minutes. Do I see any hands? The first one, Heidi, from ENCA, I take it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, it's Heidi Jokos from ENCA. Commissioner, I just want to ask you if you could maybe just explain to what extent the soaring commodities helped. Thank you.
Thank you. Second question.
Second.
Ntokozo Khumalo from Newsroom Africa. Plans now that the 7-year term is over, what will you be doing with your time, Commissioner?
I don't even know yet. Sleep late on the 1st of May, I guess. And for me, that's probably getting up at about 6:30. But as I said before, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but somehow trouble finds me. So I will not be riding into the sunset. Tokoza.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Katlego Logodi here from the SABC. I just wanted to know, in terms of the geopolitics, what has been happening in Iran, how has that affected the work of SARS in terms of tax collection, looking at the import and export tax? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Enzo Sabela from Bloomberg. To what extent did the trade tariffs and U.S. protectionism weigh on corporate taxes, and how much would we have been able to collect had it not been for U.S. tariffs in the reporting financial year? Thank you.
Thank you. One more question.
That's about it. That's about it.
That it?
Yeah.
Fine. On the commodities, I pointed out that from the mining sector, we collected 25 billion, which is up 112% of the previous year. Our estimation is that when the minister announced a 21.3% increase in our revenue collection, that about 5 billion would come from the mining sector. In total, about 7 billion from the economic buoyancy, but 2/3 of that would come from our compliance program. On the war, so firstly, between Iran and Israel, our trade dependency is very low, about 1% of our total percentage of world trade between ourselves and other countries. So from a trade relation perspective, there's minimal impact. However, about 80% of oil comes through the strait. We believe that the increase in fuel prices will start kicking in as from today, and I think the minister has wisely decided to give a relief for 1 month. Minister, we have given 50% of the funding of that 1 month to you by collecting 3.5 billion rand more. So we're giving you a 50% subsidy. But for the rest, we all have our personal views on the view, but from a revenue collectors, we do our work, we keep our head low, and we do what we need to do. Trade tariffs, again, most of the trade exports to the US, and you've seen that the US has dropped from 2nd to 3rd place, most of that is in fact a zero tariff and under preferential tariffs. So again, other than the volume of trade decreasing, the actual impact on us is minimal for now. Exports, again, we have seen that there's an extension of the AGOA, so the direct impact of that is still not immediately impact on us as a country. I think that's the questions. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. What a phenomenal achievement on behalf of SARS. We couldn't have asked for a better ambassador, Commissioner. Thank you very much. Colleagues, the session has come to an end. I would ask that we allow the distinguished guests to go first, and then we'll follow after them. Thank you very much, Commissioner. The meeting is stand adjourned. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir.